This week, the faithful react to Pope Benedict's resignation. We look at some of the rumors surrounding his announcement, and we have more details about the upcoming conclave. Hello and welcome to Vatican Connections for this very interesting week in the life of the Church. It's Pope Benedict's final week as pontiff. Now, it's been over a week since he announced his resignation, and as you can imagine, there has been talk of nothing else in the Church. Inside and outside the Church, people have expressed their support for a pontiff who clearly feels this is the best move for the Church. The faithful of Rome filled St. Peter's this past Sunday to show their support. The mayor of Rome was there along with city councillors. Pope Benedict focused on the task at hand.
I greet also English-speaking visitors and pilgrims present for Tedious Angelus. Today we contemplate Christ in the desert, fasting, praying, and being tempted. As we begin our Lenten journey, we join him and we ask him to give us strength to fight our weaknesses. Let me also thank you for the prayers and support you have shown me in these days.
Later that day, Pope Benedict and the Roman Curia began their week of Lenten spiritual exercises. Cardinal Gianfranco Ravasi is leading the week-long retreat. There was no general audience this week because of the exercises, but we did get tweets and podcasts from Cardinal Ravasi with excerpts from the meditation he's been giving to the cardinals. There are some exciting developments for Salt and Light and Vatican Connections as well. Our own Father Thomas Rosica is in Rome, serving as assistant to the director of the Holy See Press Office, Father Federico Lombardi. He started his duties Thursday with a briefing for the press. Father Rosica and Sebastian Gomes will be sending us updates from Rome over the next few weeks. Now, while the Holy Father and the Holy See focuses on preparing for Easter, Catholics are still reacting to the unprecedented papal resignation. Former Catholic News Service Rome Bureau Chief John Thavis is in Rome, and he compared this moment in the Church's life to the 25 years of events he's covered.
It's been interesting walking around the old neighborhood around the Vatican, which is where Pope Benedict, as Cardinal Ratzinger, lived for 20-some years. And the people there have reacted in a couple of different ways. They're concerned for the Pope because they think, well, he must really be frail. They're concerned for his health. But most of all, they're wondering, are we going to see him again? You know, will he be walking through our streets feeding the cats ever again, or is he going to disappear behind the Vatican walls? So it's a very strange kind of goodbye, and people don't quite know how to do it. Journalists are dealing with this idea of resignation for the first time as well. And of course, they have 1,000 questions. And the interesting thing is that the Vatican doesn't seem to have all the answers. You know, this is clearly a work in progress as far as the Vatican goes. Father Lombardi, the Vatican spokesman, has been extremely helpful, meeting with journalists every day, but he's been quite honest in saying he really doesn't know how everything's going to work out. And that's because I think Pope Benedict is going to define the job description of retired pontiff. For journalists, it's also the season of finding cardinals and trying to get them to talk about who might be the next pope. And I think the cardinals are, of course, always a little bit hesitant to start talking about that, but especially now because we have a reigning pope. We have a pope who's still in office. And it seems a little bit unseemly to be talking about that before he's even resigned.
Now, the reason this papal resignation is so shocking is because there hasn't been one in about 600 years. So, to give some historical perspective on this, CNS spoke to one expert in church history about the last time a pope resigned and what similarities there are between that pope and today's pope.
Papal resignations are exceptionally rare. In the last, say, 1,100 years, we've really only had 4 of them. And I think what's the case that's most relevant for talking about our current circumstances, which is the papacy of Celestine V and his resignation at the end of the 13th century. Celestine became pope in 1294, and his papacy was fractious from the start. There had been a dispute for over 2 years about who should be elected the next pope, and one of the cardinals suggests that Celestine, who is well regarded as a hermit, has a reputation for piety, that he should in fact become pope. He doesn't really effectively run the curia. What we see is everyone is sort of dissatisfied, including himself. Where Celestine really feels that he should be a hermit, he should go back to this sort of reclusive monastic life, and feels sort of heavily burdened by the duties of the papal throne that he really himself realizes that he can't fully carry out. I think there are a lot of similarities between this burden that Celestine felt and this burden that Benedict felt on taking up the papacy. From everything that we can tell about Celestine, he really was a devout monastic and believed that that was sort of the proper spiritual life to lead. I think there's not only this general parallel, but Pope Benedict has always felt an affection for Celestine. He proclaimed, starting in 2009, on the 800th anniversary of Celestine's death, a Celestine year. He visited Celestine's church in Rocca and actually went to Celestine's tomb, prayed there, and I believe laid the pallium used in his papal inauguration on Celestine's tomb. So he's a figure who has, I think, been revered by Benedict and is sort of remembered mostly for his reluctance to take up this sort of burden of the Apostolic See and this desire, this sort of conflict between serving in the papal courts and then wanting to dedicate yourself to a truly sort of spiritual, holy life and a life sort of removed from the material world. And just today I saw statements from Benedict about how he will be in private retreat. All of that very much mirrors what Celestine sort of wanted and desired and seemed to express.
Now already many church watchers are thinking ahead to the next pope and the church that he will inherit. George Weigel shared his thoughts with CNS this week.
The expectations that this would be a pontificate in which the Vatican bureaucracy, the Roman Curia, was deeply and thoroughly reformed have not been met. Things are in fact worse now, in my view, than they have been in perhaps 40 years. Everyone who does not have a vested interest in the status quo understands that a major task in the early going of the next pontificate is going to be not only to change structure, but to change attitude. The Roman Curia exists to give effect to the will of the Bishop of Rome. That's the only reason it exists. If being the universal pastor of the Church means to be an evangelizing missionary, then the Roman Curia has to think of itself as part of that papal evangelical mission, and it has to contribute to that rather than being an impediment to it, which frankly, in some instances, indeed perhaps many instances, it is today. This Curia needs to be thoroughly internationalized. It needs to be detached from what has become, according to one of my Italian friends, a deeply rooted culture of corruption in Italy as a whole, which has a way of seeping over the boundary between Italy and Vatican City. And if the next pope does not wish to take this on himself, which in many respects he probably shouldn't do, it's not the job of the pope to move slots around on an organization chart. But he needs to hire somebody. He needs to have a Secretary of State, a Chief of Staff, or sostituto as he's called here, who can take this on and will have his authority and his backing to do this properly.
Now, a few other things happened at the Vatican in the last week or so. You might call it a bit of housekeeping before Sede Vacante begins. So, a new president was appointed to the Vatican Bank, and the Oversight Committee, made up of 5 cardinals, was approved for another 5-year term. That committee includes Cardinal Tarcisio Bertone, the Secretary of State, although that may change during the next pontificate. Did you know that Pope John Paul II was the first pope to state that conclaves should take place in the Sistine Chapel? Throughout history, conclaves have been held in a variety of churches in Rome and elsewhere. There's nothing like being in Rome right now, following events as they unfold. Francis Rocca is the Rome Bureau Chief for Catholic News Service, and he has more about what's going on in Rome and what we can expect next.
The Pope finishes his Lenten retreat on Saturday. He's been there all week, and there haven't been any public activities involving the Pope, but he finishes on Saturday. On Sunday, he'll be praying the Angelus, and there'll be, we expect a big crowd in St. Peter's Square. That'll be his last Angelus. On Monday, he'll be meeting privately with some of the curial cardinals to discuss business, I suppose close up shop in a sense. On Wednesday will be a big day, because on Wednesday will be his last public audience, also in the square. We can hope for, maybe we can hope for some words, final parting words for the public on that occasion. And then on Thursday, which is his last day as Pope, he'll be meeting the cardinals who are in Rome, and I expect that most, if not all, of the cardinal electors will be here by then, and he'll be saying goodbye to them. We don't know if he'll make any formal remarks or whether he'll just meet with them privately. That evening, at 5 p.m., his helicopter will take him from the Vatican City to Castel Gandolfo, to his what is ordinarily his summer retreat, where he'll spend the whole period of the transition, and then he'll eventually be moving into a monastery in Vatican City. Friday is when the first day of the interregnum, and the cardinals will begin meeting and decide what they want to do.
So, Frank, tell me, do we know any more about the conclave?
For the moment, as the law now stands, the conclave should begin 15 to 20 days after the see falls vacant, after there is no pope, which of course is ordinarily when a pope dies. So in that case, it would begin between March 15th and March 20th. However, these are extraordinary circumstances, because we've known already for almost 2 weeks when the pope is leaving. So some people have raised the possibility that the cardinals might want to start it sooner. Some cardinals have spoken out against this idea. They want to have them more time to deliberate and for everyone to gather. It's possible, a bishop who works in the Vatican, who's an expert on this today, said that the Pope can do anything he wants until February 28th. So it's possible he may specify a certain date for the beginning of the conclave that would be earlier. But if he doesn't do that, it will be up to the cardinals after they start meeting on March 1st.
And what about Pope Benedict after February 28th? Do we know any more about what will happen with him? I think the biggest question on people's minds is, what will we call him?
On the evening of February 28th, the Pope will go to Castel Gandolfo outside of Rome, where he'll spend an unspecified period of time, but certainly the whole period of the conclave and the transition, he will be there. At the moment, a monastery, really a small building inside Vatican City, is being prepared, and that will be his permanent home. So he'll move back in and he'll stay there, very close to, well, Vatican City is only 108 acres, so obviously he'll be very close to his successor and to St. Peter's. What we'll call him, we don't know yet. We don't know, that's yet to be determined. One bishop, one U.S. bishop, has said that he thinks he'll still have the honorific title Pope. but that's just one opinion. The Vatican hasn't said. When it was asked if he would be considered the Bishop Emeritus of Rome, the spokesman's answer was that yes, that would be presumably one of his titles, since that's in fact what he will be. But whether a new title will be invented is anybody's guess. Whether he should be addressed as His Holiness, this is just one of the many protocol questions that this practically unprecedented decision has raised, and so stay tuned.
That was Francis Rocca in Rome. Now, there were some nominations and resignations over the last couple of weeks. Let's take a look at what they were. Bishop Giuseppe Sciacca was named Auditor General of the Apostolic Camera, meaning that he will be one of the 3 men who observes the running of the upcoming conclave. Bishop Sciacca is also the Secretary General of the Governorate of Vatican City. In Canada, Churchill Hudson Bay has a new bishop. Father Wisław Krotki has been a parish priest in the diocese since 1990, and he has been appointed to take over for the retiring Bishop Reynald Rouleau. The Diocese of Hamilton, Ontario has a new auxiliary. Father Daniel Mime was appointed to auxiliary of that diocese. Moulins, France has a new bishop as well. Father Laurent Persenou has been appointed bishop of that diocese in central France. And there is a new undersecretary at the Pontifical Congregation for Education. Father Friedrich Bekina, who already serves at the congregation, will slip into this new role. And Father Robert Coyle of Rockville Center was named auxiliary bishop for the U.S. Military Ordinariate. There's just a week left in Benedict XVI papacy, and there's just a handful of appointments that he has to carry out before the interregnum begins. Sunday, he will lead his last Angelus at St. Peter's, and Wednesday, February 27th, will be his last general audience. It will take place at St. Peter's Square because of the sheer number of people expected to attend. We'll have full live coverage of that audience at 4:30 a.m. Eastern with Chris Dimitrenko and repeats throughout the day. Thursday, Pope Benedict will have one last meeting with the College of Cardinals at 11 a.m. Rome time. Then at 5 p.m. in Rome, he will leave the Vatican by helicopter for Castel Gandolfo. At 8 p.m. Rome time, the interregnum officially begins. This week, we're answering your questions about what happens when a pope resigns and what will happen to Pope Benedict after February 28th. Michelle asks, is this a type of retirement, or will Pope Benedict XVI still take part in the Church? 'Cause I heard that he won't write books even. Also, what will he be called after? So, Michelle, what we know is that Pope Benedict will not be doing any public ministry. Father Lombardi, the Vatican spokesperson, said it will be up to Benedict himself whether or not he will attend any public masses at the Vatican. Pope Benedict was working on another encyclical, and we know that it will not be finished before the 28th. But Father Lombardi told journalists we may still get to read the text. It just won't be a papal encyclical. As for what will call Pope Benedict after the 28th of February, the Vatican's Department for Legislative Text is working on that question. Most likely, he will be referred to as Benedict XVI, Bishop Emeritus of Rome. Dave asks us, what is the job of the Camerlengo? Now, the Camerlengo, or the Chamberlain, is always a cardinal, and he is appointed by the Pope. Normally, it's the Camerlengo who's summoned when a pope has died. He calls the pope's name 3 times, taps him on the forehead, and when there's no reaction, he announces that the pope is dead, he removes the fisherman's ring and destroys it to signify the end of the papacy. Now, in this case, the Camerlengo will probably still have to destroy the papal ring. The Camerlengo also takes care of getting everything ready for the conclave. The current Camerlengo is Cardinal Tarcisio Bertone. Jamie asked if we could debunk some of the rumors out there surrounding Pope Benedict's resignation and his decision to resign. Well, we heard a few rumors ourselves, so we looked into some of them. Now, the first rumor we heard was that Pope Benedict is seriously ill and he's resigning because he doesn't want to be in the public eye as his health deteriorates. We also heard that He may have cancer or Alzheimer's. Some reports have said he's blind in one eye, his hearing is diminishing, he can't sleep well anymore, and he's generally worn down. The Pope is, after all, 86 years old. He does have a pacemaker, we do know that. He had it put in before he was elected in the 1990s. The Vatican confirmed that Pope Benedict did have a small procedure about 3 months ago to change the batteries for the pacemaker. And the Pope's brother, Father Georg Ratzinger, told German reporters that doctors advised Benedict not to make any more transatlantic flights due to high blood pressure. Now that would prevent him from attending World Youth Day in Rio de Janeiro. The Vatican spokesperson, Father Federico Lombardi, told journalists on the day of the Pope's announcement that the Pope has no specific serious health issues other than the normal issues related to old age. The Pope's brother said the same thing to reporters in Germany. Another rumor we heard was that Pope Benedict resigned to avoid arrest and seizure of church property. Now this one's a little weird, so we looked into it. A little digging revealed that a group calling themselves the International Tribunal into Crimes of Church and State sent a communique to the Holy See on February 4th informing the Vatican's Secretary of State of charges against Pope Benedict for a variety of alleged criminal behavior. The thing is, this international tribunal doesn't appear to be a real court. It lists one member, a reverend from Canada, who investigates crimes allegedly carried out by the Vatican and the British Crown. Their communique and their charges against Pope Benedict would have no legal weight. The international court that would have the power to bring someone to trial for serious international crimes would be the UN's International Court of Justice, which was founded in 1945. Member states can bring cases before that UN court. Private citizens, non-government organizations, and private corporations cannot bring cases to the International Court of Justice. Now, a quick check of cases currently before the International Court of Justice shows there are no cases involving Pope Benedict or the Vatican. Vatican Connections is interactive. Send us your questions or comments by Facebook, Twitter, email, or post. Via email, send comments to info@saltandlighttv.org. And by post, send letters to 114 Richmond Street East, Toronto, Ontario, M5C 1P1, Canada. This week's Roman Profile is very literally a look at the faces and places that will play a key role in the upcoming conclave. And that's all for this week's edition of Vatican Connections. Join us again next time as we begin the interregnum together. Now, once all the cardinal electors are in Rome, they will decide when to begin the conclave. And when they do, we will have all the details you need to know. So from everyone here, thank you for watching, and see you next time.